Good morning, church. The first reading is from Psalms 24. The earth is God's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. For God founded it upon the seas and established it upon the rivers. The second reading is from Acts chapter 4, verses 32 through 35. The community of believers was of one mind and one heart. None of them claimed anything of their own. Rather, everything was held in common. The apostles continued to testify with great power of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. They were all given great respect, nor was anyone needy among them, for those who owned property or houses would sell them and give the money to the apostles, and then it was distributed to any members who might need it or be in need. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Amen. Beautiful choir. Thank you. Jim, do you want to use the microphone here? Yep.
It's my privilege to introduce a colleague and friend to Central, but he's no stranger to Central. It's Conan Smith, who is president and CEO of the Michigan Environmental Council, which was founded, among others, by Detroit Audubon, that I was involved in helping found that organization, as our voice in Lansing for all the environmental groups to be able to have more of an impact on environmental policy. And I remember first meeting Conan when he helped us at annual conference to bolster a resolution that Centro presented about, and I'm going to get this name wrong, but I think it was the Environmental Agenda for Michigan, something like that. But it came out of a conference that MEC, including Conan, helped bring together people from different groups with under the leadership of Governor Milliken and Attorney General Frank Kelly, who were giants in the environmental movement. And then Conan also facilitated a strategic planning retreat for Central as well. But I'm just grateful for the great leadership he's brought to MEC. There's an office in Detroit. They're much more involved in environmental justice and just a beacon of hope in this state. So thrilled to have you with us today, Conan.
Good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be back here and amongst you today. I've been thinking a lot as I came about the words that I wanted to share with you and where they would come from. Every day is different. If you do this kind of work, you know you spend time writing your speech and then you get in the moment. The day is different. I expected rain. It did not rain. And I'm going to slide a little differently than I would have otherwise. And I'm going to say good morning to Sylvia. I see you over there. Friends, let me tell you a little about myself. I came and grew up in a very safe space. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was blessed to have a stable family, a comfortable upbringing. I went to excellent schools and found myself at the University of Michigan. My life has been comfortable, but my comfort and my safety came out of spaces of resistance. My mother, my grandparents, they were civil rights and justice leaders in this state. My grandfather, some of you may remember, Albert Wheeler, he was the author of our state's civil rights clause in our Constitution, and he helped found the Department of Civil Rights. My grandmother, Emma Wheeler, led the NAACP's formation here in the state of Michigan. She herself was from South Carolina, and my grandparents met in Michigan at the University of Michigan. Apparently, my grandfather was somewhat of a player, and my grandmother rejected him for many years, but eventually they got together, and they started their family in my grandmother's home in South Carolina. My grandmother was a justice fighter, and she worked in the public health arena. She's one of the first African-American women to get a public health degree from the University of Michigan, in fact. And my grandfather would go on to be the first black professor at the University of Michigan when they returned to this state. But in those early years, and they started their family in South Carolina, they had two baby girls, two twins. One was my mother, Alma Wheeler Smith, you may know my mother. She's been an elected official in this state for many years, leads many good things. I know her as the woman who makes me take out the trash to this day. But she had a twin sister, Lucille. And my mom will tell this story, how in those days, early days, my mother's sister was playing with matches, and she lit her dress on fire. And the family, of course, distraught, called for assistance, and the ambulance, when it arrived at their house, they saw that this was a black family, and they turned around and they left. And my mother lost her twin sister that day. It was a tragedy, of course, that burns deep in our family to this day, and it is a reminder of the absence of justice is critically painful if we do not have it. They moved back to Michigan, and that safety that I enjoyed was born out of the loss of safety that they experienced. In their fights for justice, it was never a quiet time. There were death threats, there were broken windows, there were jailings that happened, and my family did all they could to insulate and protect the younger ones, the next generation, from those pains. And I'm ever grateful for that, and I am ever aware that some in our society do not enjoy that safety, and that those of us who do, we bear the burden and responsibility of providing that safety for others, as my parents did for me, as my grandparents did for their children. Jim asked me to come talk today about environmental justice, and I want to start with that story because there is an important distinction to be made between environmental protection and stewardship and environmental justice. We all have a responsibility, of course, to protect this planet, to honor the things that we have been given that sustain our life. But those who do not enjoy the fruits of this earth, they deserve our support and our protection more so than that. So when we talk about environmental justice, we cannot just talk about preserving and protecting our natural resources. We have to think more carefully about how the burdens of pollution are distributed. Thank you, Jim, for that wonderful example with the river. And we have to think more carefully about how we respond to those. When there is an environmental impact, to be sure, every community has a right to be aware of that and to protect themselves from it. But that is not enough. If protecting yourself from pollution means that pollution, that harm is going to manifest on another community, and especially, and this is principle number one to me around environmental justice, especially if that community already has faced and is burdened by an existing pollution and an existing harm. Our first principle of environmental justice is not to compound the harms on people, but to ensure that those harms that the society must create, because we do create harms to the environment, those harms must be equitably distributed in ways that we all share in the burden and responsibility. So principle number one is we do not compound our harms. Now, the reason that harms sometimes get compounded is because of a lack of power in our communities. And so our principle number two must be that those communities, those people who do not enjoy social or economic power, that we stand for them, that we put ourselves between harm to those who do not have power from those who do. Our second principle, going along with making sure that injustices do not compound, is that those who are most vulnerable are not subjected unjustly to additional harms. Those two principles must guide us in our work. Now, I spend my time leading policy debates up in the state capitol, and a large part of our work is not in the fights on the ground. We work with 115 organizations around the state who bring that energy and that power into this discussion, this debate, and this battle. Our work is the process of repair and protection. So some of you may be aware of a conversation about reparations that we have in the black community, how we repair harms that have been done to our community over time. And we must bring that same spirit into our environmental field, into the environmental protection world. Back home in Washtenaw County, I chair our advisory council on reparations. And one thing that I have learned is that field of repair is very large, and it is one in which we can all participate regardless of our wherewithal to create protections and repair. Because the first thing that we do in reparations is we acknowledge that harm has been done. And for too many communities in our state who suffer from environmental pollution, we have not even taken the time to acknowledge that that harm has been created, let alone do the second thing, which is also critically important, to apologize for inflicting that harm, to express through our hearts our passion and our care for each other by saying, I am sorry that this burden has been placed upon you. To see it and to say it is something we can all do. And that small step opens up the pathway for greater repair. So acknowledgement and apology at the very front end of our work. And then we must recognize that those harms have to be repaired, that where there is an existing pollutant, we should clean it up. Where there is harm that has come into that community, we should not compound that harm. And when we can, we should do everything we can to equitably displace those burdens. So repair becomes the follow-up work to acknowledgement and apology. And then finally, there is restitution, because the harms that are created in past generations carry forward into other generations if they are not repaired and if we do not do restitution. I'm going to tell you a very tiny example of this from someone who does not bear a lot of burdens in their lives. I live in my grandparents' home in Ann Arbor, right in downtown. They bought this house in 1938. As a black family, they were not allowed to get a mortgage in the state of Michigan. They were denied financing for their home. They had to leave the state to get money to purchase this home. There were so many homes in Washtenaw County. As a matter of fact, just a block from my house, the entire neighborhood had a racial covenant on it, and blacks were not allowed to purchase those homes or even live in those homes as servants. And so the opportunity to own this particular home, and mind you, my grandfather was a faculty member at the University of Michigan at this time. The opportunity to own and live in that home was a tremendous opportunity. But that home that he was allowed to buy is in the floodplain. And back in the 1930s and 40s, they were just beginning to discover what it meant to have a floodplain. And so this place became not so desirable. And you can see this pattern of sales and habitation in Ann Arbor, where the blacks were allowed to buy these homes in Ann Arbor, even though they were in places that were perhaps less desirable, even though they were in this great city. Now today, I'm so grateful to live in what I think of as one of Michigan's best cities. I live very close to our downtown. I live in a house that is beautiful, in a community and a neighborhood that is stable. And over the last 2 years, I have been inundated with floods. And because of that, I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars cleaning out my house, rebuilding the basement. These are legacy costs put on us by those past transgressions. And so the same holds true with pollution and environmental degradation, that when we create a harm today and we do not do the right work of repair and restitution, that we pass that harm on to future generations. And that is so inherently unjust and unfair that we, as good people, must embrace that repair work more intentionally and build it into our lives. Jim also asked me to give a sense of the state of Michigan when it comes to this work. And I will say, we're on a properly upward path, but we are not on the steep climb like we should be. There is much more for us to do, but this state, under this current governor, has at the very least taken the first steps of acknowledgement. We have built a tool at the state level that helps us assess which communities are most impacted currently by environmental pollution, and that helps us make choices about where to prioritize our dollars for repair, for cleanup, and for protection against future harms. Those are both really incredibly important steps. Our federal government, the past president, he did a much better job about this than the current president. He actually believed that the environment needed to be protected, but more than that, he believed in the justice of protecting the environment and worked in his administration to not just identify the places that were impacted, but to funnel millions, billions of dollars into those communities that had been harmed to enact that repair and that restitution. And so we have pathways. We can see that progress can be made. And yet, we can also see in this very moment that there are those who would stand in our way of that protection in their own desire for wealth and greed. So it becomes incumbent on all of us to recognize that environmental justice is more than just environmental protection, that it is about paying attention to where those harms manifest and ensuring that those who are most vulnerable in our communities can and will be protected by those of us who have more and can do better. It is a process, too, one where we have to start with acknowledgement of the harms that we have created as a society, make apology for those harms, and pledge to do better and to make things better for those communities. We are in this time, not just societally, but I'm going to say ecologically, in the moment of April. April is our spring. April is our ecological time of repair. And so as you go out in the world over the next several weeks and you start to see the world blossom, you see the birds return, you hear the bird song, you see the flowers start to bud, know that these processes of repair, they are very native to us. They are built into our souls and our hearts, and embrace that power that is the power of the planet, and do what we all can to make this world a better place for those who are more vulnerable to those harms than we are today. Jim, Paul, thank you so much.